Hi, I'm Tim of the 1916 Company with a collector whose life is as varied as her collection. It's always fun to see where people come to the hobby, and I have to say that today we have a first ever. A retired chief of police and a watch collector extraordinaire. Beth, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you, Tim.
So, after your career in law enforcement, you really started looking into the watch collecting hobby. So this is not something that was a germ that started when you were 5, 10, 15 years old. This is a relatively new embrace.
It is. So it started towards the end of my law enforcement career when I met my husband, who is a watch collector, who you'll be talking to, sitting to my left. I was happy to wear my iWatch all the time. I did have different bracelets for it and stuff to blinged out to make it prettier, but I was completely content with that. And when we would travel, he always liked to go into the different shops and look at watches, and so I was tagging along, and he was really pushing me to choose a nice watch, and he would be looking at stuff like, what do you think of this? I go, it's beautiful.
So it was a hard sell and you weren't buying it?
No, it wasn't until I saw my first watch that I got that I knew right then. I'm like, nope, that's the watch I want, because he would keep pointing out stuff and I spotted it, and so it began.
Well, you know, sometimes they say a convert is the most sincere devotee. So what was the watch that won the convert?
That would be this Breitling that I got in San Diego.
It's a lovely chronomat, mother of pearl diamonds, and yet still functional with unidirectional bezel. It's a chronometer. It is mechanical, rouleau bracelet. What won you over?
I don't know what it was, and I wish I could say I had one thing to it. It's just my eye was drawn to it, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I tried it on, really loved it, but wasn't sure I wanted to purchase yet. So we went and had lunch, and I could not stop thinking about this watch and how beautiful it looked on my wrist during lunch. So we finished up lunch and came back and I purchased it. So we were still at the same shopping center. We have this thing about going to California Pizza Kitchen for lunches when we're traveling and we're at malls and stuff. And
that can be dangerous.
It has become
at malls.
dangerous. So that has kind of become now if we go to California Pizza Kitchen for lunch, we're likely one of us is coming home with a watch.
Now, had you owned jewelry in the past? Was this previously a passion you had for crafted items?
I do have a really nice collection of diamond jewelry. And that was kind of, if I was going to spend my money, that's what I would focus on. And it wasn't until I bought this watch that I really came to appreciate the beauty of watches and wanting to see different watches.
And would you say that there's an element of maybe versatility here that you don't have when the article is only diamonds, that adding the timepiece maybe makes it a little bit more everyday friendly?
Well, what's interesting about this one too, and me being drawn to it, is I typically would never mix colors, metal colors. And this one was just so beautiful that it kind of even changed how I'm wearing some of my normal jewelry and mixing.
And that's an interesting observation, because I know two-tone is the kind of thing where people either they love it or they hate it, and there's no middle ground. And in the modern era, you tend to see more of the rose gold and steel rather than like the 80s, 90s style yellow gold and steel. So you really love the two-tone look, and it's something that I guess is uniquely fetching to your sensibility.
It is. And I do prefer the rose gold to the yellow gold, just how it looks on my skin tone. My eye will get drawn to a yellow gold two-tone, but the moment I put it on, it doesn't look right for me.
There was something very I hate to use this comparison, but like Miami Vice about it.
Kind of.
That's horrible with a law enforcement officer, but there does seem something very Miami Vice about yellow steel two-tone. And I guess from that point, you were off to the races because the collection has grown. So take me on a journey through your collecting journey. Where was the next stop?
So the next stop was back home. We go to Davidson and Licht often. And we were shopping. Kenny was going in to look at for a particular watch and talk to him about he's on a wait list for a particular watch. So I always wander the shop, and my eye went right to this Breitling again.
Not a small watch.
No, I actually prefer the larger dials. I think it looks nicer on my wrist.
You got to tell me what you love about this, because to be perfectly honest, your first two watches are highly technical. You've got a dive watch with a chronometer certification and an 80s neo-vintage rouleau bracelet. You've got the Navitimer with the slide rule calculator and the chronograph. What is it that really speaks to you here? Because these are both, I guess this is neo-vintage, because this design harks back to the 80s and this harks back to the 50s. What draws your eye or captures your imagination when you see something like a Navitimer?
I like the vintage look to it. To use your word there, it really drew my eye in. I like all the movement pieces to it, and to be able to see all the complications.
As much
really
about the
beautiful.
back as the front.
Yeah, which is almost a shame that it's on your wrist and it can't be seen, right? So I do have my eye on a skeleton watch sometime in the future, because I love being able to see all the movement.
And it is kind of interesting to see this transformation in the appeal that watches have. And I think there was a time when you had a lot of women's watches that were designed by men for women, and it really pigeonholed what a lady's watch could be: diamonds, small, quartz. But without those restrictions, I see that women collectors are a lot like male collectors, and it's the magic in the movement as well as the heritage and the history that's really appealing. Now, I guess one of the interesting things about your collection is how varied it is. So do you have any guidelines for how you choose a watch? Is it always going to be something that's a certain size or a certain style? Because I don't know how you go from neo-vintage to purple, but you got to tell me, like, what is your criterion? Do you go by your heart or your head?
I follow my heart. So if my eye is drawn to it and I can't stop thinking about it, that's the watch that I want to take home. I also because I like to accessorize. My poor husband lost most of the closet in our marriage because it's all my shoes, because I'm a shoe collector as well. So I like being able to mix and match pieces when I put a look together.
So something that's a little bit more the guy saying, "Well, I'm wearing a green shirt today. I'm going to wear." It's really thought out. It's jewelry. It's the jacket. It's shoes.
So like it's even how I'm going to wear my hair that day. It can be that detailed, and it's the look and the feel. So I like this one if I'm going to be a little dressier, but still want kind of an outdoors look. But we're going somewhere nice, so I'll pair that with that kind of outfit, like tall boots and a nice sweater, a heavy sweater or something. That's why I like this one.
It's elegant, but it's also got like that mid-century aviation swagger that makes it a little bit more utilitarian and versatile. Right. So do you have any kind of ground rules, like I've got to see it twice, I've got to try to forget it, and then if I can't forget it, I come back? Or are you the type to, I guess, jump in or nibble? Like there's two types of fish. There's the kind that just takes the lure, takes the bait, and runs with it.
I jump in.
You jump in. You don't nibble.
That's been my whole life. I'm someone who goes 100 miles an hour. So I will at times go grab lunch, and because there are pretty big expenses. This isn't, I'm not picking up a pair of earrings at fashion jewelry at Macy's that day that's like $25, right? I do try and take my time to think about it, and I do think about how it's going to fit in the collection. I have walked away from a couple watches that my eye went to, but it's too close to something I already have. And so I would rather diversify the collection and have more options than keep going. Because I will get pulled all the time to anything that looks like my first watch.
Okay, so this has a very sentimental place because you got into watch collecting after your career in law enforcement. Certainly, the watches probably don't relate to career milestones, but have you ever bought a watch to celebrate an occasion or a memorable moment, something that you associate with that watch forever?
Yes, so I'll go back to the first watch. Again, that one was purchased when I was becoming a police chief. And so it was time for a big girl watch if I was going to be a police chief. And I really wanted something that was a statement piece for an executive level position. So I associate this one with reaching the pinnacle of my professional career. And then I do have a Rolex that's really important to me that is my anniversary watch. My husband and I each purchased a watch. In fact, it's interesting, he had one selected for the two of us to have matching. And we went into our Davidson and Licht, and I was looking around, and like I said, my eye goes right to something, and in the pre-owned case was the Rolex that I really wanted, and that became my anniversary watch instead of the matching ones.
What model was that?
It is a silver tapestry Datejust.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's fantastic. So,
It's unique. There aren't many of them out there now because it's pre-owned, certified pre-owned, and that's what my eye went to, and that's what I wanted.
now, tapestry is a very particular look. You know it when you see it. Like I said, you go head over heels in love with a model, and you're that fish that takes the bait runs. Or we're going to say shark.
Yes, thank you.
Ex-law
I appreciate
enforcement.
that.
We're not baiting minnows here. So what impresses me most is that you've done what even I might not be able to do, which is pull off a 43 millimeter Bucher blue bronze black bay. 43 millimeters, no holds barred. This is officially an oversized watch. How did you make your peace with the case size? And just tell me the whole story behind this watch, because my mind reels.
So again, this is my husband's fault. We were down here in Southern California, and he popped into a watch dealer that he stayed in touch with. And then we went next door to the Tudor shop, and we were just kind of looking around. We had time to spend just wandering around for the day, shopping and stuff. And my eye went right to that. And I actually thought he would want it. And so he took it out, put it on, and he liked it. And then I put it on, and I'm like, I love this watch.
And what is the occasion that brings this one out of storage? Because you're talking about how you try to make sure that everything is symmetrically keyed. What kind of ambiance goes with a watch like this? Because this is the brass ring as far as bronze die watches go. That's a very rugged utilitarian
And
look.
it's starting to patina beautifully and stuff too, which I really like. So I actually wear this one quite a bit. Now that I'm semi-retired, I'm not in uniform or in suits and stuff that much anymore. I love wearing a nice pair of jeans with a flannel, a big sweater. So this is kind of my more rugged outdoor look.
So the Levi's look.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very cool
We go
idea.
jeeping a lot and stuff, so this watch will be on my wrist in the Jeep.
Have you looked into the Bucher connection at all, or the Bucher background? Because it's kind of fascinating what they are and what they represent.
I haven't spent a lot of time studying it, but my husband has. So I get tutorials from him about that. But when I spotted this one, again, we kind of walked away from it, went shopping and finished up our day at the mall.
Let it percolate for a while.
We had actually talked about splitting the cost of it and then both wearing it because it fit both of our wrists. And he finally said, he goes, "No, I just don't think that watch is for me." I said, "Well, then I'm buying it because that watch is for me."
Badass.
So,
All right.
thank you. Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
And just to give you guys a quick sense of what we're talking about right here, I mean, you know my wrist pretty well. I can't quite make that work, but that's a monstrous machine. Oh yeah, we need to see
Doesn't
firsthand.
quite go with the pink.
That's okay. Bronze goes well with everything.
Right?
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the coloring on it. I love the weathered strap.
It's almost got like a distressed look to it. Mm-hmm. It's just got a very granular sort of gritty authenticity to it as a dive watch. Mm-hmm. So you've got a pretty diverse range of watches. You've got your pilot's watch and chronograph. You've got your dive watch. With Cartier, you've got a no-holds-barred dress watch. And with the Rouleau bracelet Chronomat, you have a bit of a fusion style. Take me through the decision behind these two more dress-oriented watches from Breitling and from Cartier, because these are more elegant, these are more refined, these are a little bit more understated. What was the thought process there?
So this one, we were back at the same shop where I got this one. We were down in San Diego visiting Kenny's middle daughter, my bonus kiddo. And so we were walking around the same spot. He wanted to pop back in and say hello to the dealer that was there, and I spotted that one. I didn't buy it that day. We came back to our usual dealer, and I asked him if they could get it for me. It came with the silver bracelet, but they made sure that I was able to get the
gloss burgundy. Mm-hmm. And then it was, in my opinion, this is a more classical look for a watch of this size, because this is not altogether different from what a man would have wore back in the 1940s, 50s, 60s. This case size would have been considered a full-size watch, and almost invariably there would have been a strap associated. So this has almost a little bit of a feel of a vintage watch, especially with this 50s style small beaded Navitimer bezel. So I really like that.
And I really think the strap makes that unique, because when it arrived on the bracelet, you lost the dial, all the beauty in the dial. The bracelet overwhelmed it. And so I really liked being able to put it back on the strap.
And I agree with you there. The massiveness of a bracelet would a little bit overpower that dial in that case. I really like that decision to go with the strap here because it's classical. Tank Noir, this is a little bit of a different kind of a take on a tank, very minimalist, super high contrast, the light and the dark. How did this find its way into your collection? Because this is your one Cartier.
And this is my most recent purchase. So when I would look at in the Cartier displays, I was always drawn to them because they're beautiful watches. But the moment I'd put them on my wrist, I didn't like it. I wanted to have something that had a rectangle dial shape to it.
Yeah, a form watch, basically.
Yeah. But I wanted something because we do some more dressy events and stuff like that. And these are, this is a beautiful watch. So is that one. But I wanted something really sleek, really clean to go with some of my more formal outfits.
Like a black tie type event.
Right. And I spotted that one, again, back at Davidson and Licht. And the moment I put it on, I loved it. So I'm like, oh, I finally found the Cartier that I love.
And I gotta say, this has got like the hit of a brass knuckle, because that combination of the super understated black dial and the polished steel, that's a really punchy look, but not in a huge size. So that's something that Cartier does so well. Really great, high impact, enduring styles. And I guarantee you that, I don't know how violet or purple is gonna age 50 years from now. I can tell you that this will still be in style. That is a forever design.
Yeah.
So, okay, this is the one that doesn't fit the rhyme scheme. Almost all of your watches have really deep historical ties, except for the Breitling Endurance Pro. So you got to tell me where that came from, because that's the left field watch here.
Right. So once again, we're back in Davidson and Licht, and you can tell I like Breitling. So that's usually one of my first stops. I poke around over there and see what's in. And that popped. I love bright colors. I love things that are unexpected. When I was a police captain it wasn't at my last agency, but at the previous one, I was known for all my high heels. That I would, I'd be in my business suits and be in high heels, which is kind of unusual for a police officer, right? But I wasn't working the street anymore. I was sitting in meetings all day. So that's kind of my unique flair, is all the accessories. And when I spotted that color popped. And I didn't have anything because I don't wear the iWatch anymore. I've left that habit, although I do still have it for working out and stuff.
That's okay. We don't judge.
Yep, I know.
We love all watches here.
My husband judges. So that I wanted something that was sporty, that if I'm, just out in sweats and, running around with a ball cap on, I wanted something that was more of a sporty look. And that popped. And it was funny because as soon as I asked to see it, Jake, who works at Davidson and Licht, looked at me and he goes, I knew exactly and that this watch would go to you when it came in. He goes, I spotted it and said, I know Beth's going to come in and see that watch and want it.
That was meant to be. And I definitely see where you're coming from in terms of a watch you can throw on with a sweatsuit and then run under a faucet. Because with the bright light, the water resistance, the lightness of it, the rubber strap, this is the most committed sports watch you've got, because it's what a sports watch looks like in the 21st century. And no holds barred either. I mean, it makes a statement, but it's also practical. You've got the compass rose bezel, you've got the chronograph, the water resistance, the chronometer certification, and a strap that, frankly, in all likelihood, is going to last a decade.
And it keeps me out of trouble at home, because I was getting scolded for wearing my other nice watches while doing yard work and stuff.
Oh, well, that's badass too.
What's the point of buying it and having it if you don't wear it? I didn't buy any of these just to have them sit in a collection in a safe and not enjoy them.
No, I totally agree with that. I would not judge, honestly.
So now I don't get in trouble.
Chores and luxury watches, that's just called life.
Right. I agree.
I would also say this is kind of nice, because if you do find yourself in an environment where people are judgmental of Apple watches or smart watches or G-Shocks, you've still got your battery, you've still got your durability, you've still got your quartz reliability, but you've also got a luxury watch brand. So it's almost like this is the way you escape all of those judgmental looks because you're wearing a G-Shock or an Apple Watch or like an Iron Man. That's a really cool piece in the collection. And then, look, I love the Navitimer, but I can't deny that the Portugieser is the most classical, along with the Cartier tank. Tell me how this came to happen, because this is a very distinctive and strong sort of German-Swiss aesthetic.
Kenny and I like to go to Manhattan we'll sometimes just do long weekends. And we'll spend a lot of time there just walking around, shopping, eating. We'll eat all the way through the trip. And we went into the time machine and we're toured around in there. And again, my eye went right to that. I had zero plans on buying a watch on that trip, but I spotted that watch and absolutely loved it. And the moment I put it on, it felt so good on my wrist. It's like butter on my wrist. I loved that one. And I liked the blue strap to it too. It was something different from what I had in my collection.
And also, again, a watch that is neither oversized nor undersized, but right-sized. A man could wear that, a woman could wear that. And with the mechanical movement, the display case back, this watch has a lot of pedigree. This really feels like a purchase by someone who's now a couple of watches into the collection and really knows what she loves.
That one I didn't go to lunch on. That was one I bit right away.
Were there a couple of different versions? Because I really love the blue with the silver. That's always been a very warm contrast.
So if there were, I don't know. I didn't pay attention to a single other watch.
You just had tunnel vision once you had that.
What I like about that one is it's the larger dial, but it's not as fussy. It's a little cleaner look than you can see my other larger dialed watches.
Oh yeah, especially compared to the Navitimer.
Yeah. So that's part of why I really liked that one. It's just really clean.
So where do you see the collection going in the future? I think now that you really have a broad horizon, and I find that collecting often gets harder with time because you realize how much more there is to collect. Do you have any ideas what like a Grail watch might look like, or the next installment of the collection, or something you'd like to?
Yes, but I can't afford it.
Oh, I know that feeling too.
That's part of the problem when Kenny goes in and is talking with dealers and stuff. I'm walking around and I tend to spot some pretty outrageously beautiful, expensive watches. I don't remember which store we were in on which trip, because every trip we're finding our way into a watch store. Kenny was busy talking and I spotted one in the case, and one of the sales associates came over and said, "Would you like to try it on?" I'm like, "I'd love to." It was the diamonds were remarkable. And I happened to ask the price, and it's $250,000. I'm like, "Oh, please take it off my wrist!" Like quickly.
I've had that
scared me to
too.
have it on my wrist. It was stunning. So I'm not really sure what's next. I do, as much as I love Breitling, it is probably time for me to continue to diversify and to look at some other brands. So we'll see.
Well, I think that's an answer that's logical and fits with what you said earlier, because if you are a person who buys on emotion and in thrall of the moment, then you wouldn't have a highly premeditated roadmap for building out the collection. That said, I'm not going to let the one on your wrist escape. You have to tell us about Captain Cook.
The Captain Cook. So Kenny got this for me in 2022. He said I needed something for travel, because he was worried about us with all the travel that we do, being in airports and parking lots and stuff like that. And we do a lot of walking. Like we just went to Boston and walked the Freedom Trail. And so we'll walk miles and miles and miles on each of these trips. And it probably isn't practical to wear, one of these watches.
Something with lots of diamonds and gold.
Exactly, right. So he had seen a YouTube video about a couple that collect watches, and he really liked this Captain Cook. And so he surprised me with it. And what was really funny, this last year, my best friend got married, and the two of us that were part of the bridal party took her to a quick trip to Hawaii. We were doing a dinner cruise out of Kona, and I had this watch on, and we pull up to the memorial for Captain Cook. I had no idea, and I'm looking down at my wrist. I'm like, oh, there's the connection. So now this watch has even more meaning. It wasn't just that Kenny surprised me with it, but I actually had this on at the Captain Cook Memorial site on the beach in Hawaii.
I find that's part of the fun of watches. You get it because you love it, but then you build memories around it, and all of a sudden, whatever it was you loved in the beginning is still there, but it just has so much more meaning now. Were there any incredible journeys, experiences, maybe harrowing experiences on the Jeep or adventures overseas that you associate with these watches, like since you've acquired them? Something where you see that and you're like, yep, that's St. Mark's Square, or that was the day we had to flee the volcano.
So nothing harrowing.
Okay,
Thank goodness.
good.
We'll knock on wood. The IWC definitely has an emotional memory for me because it was such a fun trip to New York. Like we had the best time on that trip. You know, sometimes something's going to go wrong. It was smooth that whole trip, and we adventured for 5 days. It was great, and then I came home with that beautiful timepiece. So to me, that one has a trip attached to it.
Do you have any advice for people who are maybe getting into watch collecting a little bit later in life, who haven't been like sold on the concept since they were 10, in terms of how to avoid intimidation or how to get started or how to approach something that can seem so intimidating with the price and the specialist brands and the knowledge that the salesmen seem to have? Like, it can be a very daunting thing. I thought it was scary to go into bike shops when I was a kid because they would always look down on me. I know some people have the impression that that's what the watch world is like. What advice would you give to people starting out?
Watch your show to start with. That's actually how I've learned most about the watches, is I can go in and I'm sometimes overwhelmed by the salesperson telling me all this stuff about the watch and moving me around to different watches. That's why I actually like it when Kenny's with me, because he's a distraction for people, and then I can actually walk around and trust my gut when I find a watch that I like. And there's so many collectors that you can actually reach out to and talk to that can kind of tell you more history if you feel pressured in the store. I found that was the best way to learn more about the watches. And then once you have a watch collection, other watch collectors will find you in public and want to talk about your watch. They'll notice it on your wrist, and next thing you know, you're in a conversation with a total stranger that's a watch collector, and is super into teaching you something even you might not have known about the watch that's on your wrist. Or they want to hear the story about it too, and then they'll share the story of whatever timepiece they have on their wrist. So it's kind of fun. I'm a people person, so I like those moments.
Yeah, so find reliable sources, bring a friend to run interference at the dealer, and then tap the community. That's great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you so much, Tim. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.